Today's video is going to be somewhat different, as we take a look at some clues left behind in Ninjago episodes that aired years ago that are extremely relevant to the upcoming season. If you guys couldn't already tell by the title, there were a few secrets left in old Ninjago episodes that may explain the origin of the Pyro snakes and their significance. As always, this is just a theory, but I will be providing evidence for all of my claims, as I believe this is extremely likely to happen. So without further ado, let's begin. We've finally seen the Pyro snakes and how they look like thanks to leakers in the Ninjago community, and although I can't show you these images in the video, I will be linking them down below in the video description if you haven't seen them already. Today we'll be looking at the Pyro snakes and taking a glance at how these new villains have been hinted at the entire time throughout many Ninjago seasons. I think it's important to first establish who these villains are, and as far as we know, these villains are simply a new breed of serpentine that are mummified and have the ability to control fire. These villains will be part of another era of Ninjago, an era that is not dominated by the Hageman brothers, the old writers of Ninjago, but rather Bragi Schutt, the new writer of Ninjago. Bragi was the writer tasked with finishing the story arc of the Oni with the 4-episode March of the Oni season, and now he is taking on an entire season of Ninjago by himself, with villains he wrote by himself as well. As seen in March of the Oni, Bragi likes to build off of what the Hageman brothers have already written, instead of creating something entirely brand new. He built off the concept of the Oni, villains who were already conceptualized by the Hagemans, and now Bragi is essentially doing the same with the Pyro snakes. Let me explain. Throughout the first 2 seasons of Ninjago, there are multiple clues left behind that leave an open end to an entirely new serpentine tribe, yet it isn't entirely specified to the audience. As seen in the opening sequence of episode 9, The Royal Blacksmith, we are immediately introduced to serpentine structures located in the middle of a desert similar to that of Ouroboros. However, there is a unique twist, as this structure is actually a serpentine pyramid. I find it very weird that none of the known serpentine tribes were known to inhabit or use pyramids, yet there is one built by the serpentine. With the Pyro snakes being heavily influenced by Egyptian mythology and even being mummies themselves, I think it's safe to assume that this pyramid was built by the Pyro snakes, making them the 6th ancient serpentine tribe, perhaps the oldest tribe of all. Throughout this particular scene, we see a lot of hieroglyphics on the wall once again, hinting towards an Egyptian theme, which is a clear inspiration for the Pyro snakes. Additionally, when Lloyd is traversing the pyramid, he finally stumbles into the room in which one of the Fang Blades was kept, and if the scene is inspected carefully, you can actually notice huge serpentine statues near the walls of the room. Now, these might just look like ordinary serpentine statues to a lot of you, but by looking at the sculpting of the bottom of the serpentine head, they clearly resemble the head molds of the 2 leaked Pyro snake minifigures. This once again reinforces my belief that this temple was built and used by the Pyro snakes for some unknown reason. Now fast forward 1 season and we arrive at Ninjago Season 2, Episode 5, Child's Play. There is a scene in the Ninjago City Museum where we see Scales looking at a painting of an unknown serpentine tribe. We are led to believe that this is simply a misinterpretation of the serpentine, with Scales uttering, quote, "Boy did they get that wrong." Yet, in the next shot, we see paintings of all the other serpentine tribes. This begs the question, how could the painters have been wrong about the appearance of the serpentine if they were able to paint the other tribes? There's a simple answer. They weren't wrong and simply painted what used to be the Pyro snake tribe. When glancing at this image and the images of the leaked Pyro snake minifigures, it's clear to notice that there is a common similarity, as both snakes use a similar color scheme to the snake pictured in the museum. Now this will obviously raise confusion, as Scales didn't know of this tribe, or else he wouldn't have muttered what he said. But there is a simple answer to that as well. The Pyro snake tribe is most likely the most ancient serpentine tribe, which is why Scales and the others wouldn't know of it, because when they came into existence on Ninjago, this tribe was most likely already extinct. This would explain why these Pyro snakes used ancient structures like pyramids and based their entire civilization in the sand. I find it extremely peculiar how the serpentine culture is so heavily associated with the sand and desert, yet all 5 tribes have nothing to do with it. The Hypnobride came from an ice biome, the Fang Pyre came from underneath a graveyard, the Gunsurgi came from the inside of a mountain, and the Venomari came from a swamp. You can make the argument that the Anaconda had originated from the desert because of the location of their tomb, but as we learned in Season 4, they were locked in there by the Elemental Masters after winning the Serpentine War. This means that the Pyro Snakes might have been able to actually establish the precedent in which the entire Serpentine culture was built off of. The fact that the Serpentine will use the sand and desert as their home. One final hint I do want to mention is also seen in episode 5. In the museum, the Serpentines stumble upon a golden sarcophagus. As we all know, these are used to preserve mummies, and what are the Pyro Snakes? They're mummies. Additionally, the head mold carved into the sarcophagus is the same exact head mold used by the 2 leaked Pyro Snake minifigures. So I think it's safe to say that the Pyro Snakes have been hinted at from a long time throughout the history of Ninjago, and Bragi is extremely clever for building off of those elements left by the Higman brothers to bring a new villain faction to life that will not affect the continuity of the Ninjago timeline, unlike, let's say, the Vermilion. But of course, this is just a theory, and none of this information has been confirmed nor denied by those associated with the Ninjago show. However, I do want to know what you guys think about this. Do you believe that the Pyro Snakes have been hinted at since the beginning? Do you disagree? Let me know by leaving a comment down below. Let's try to start a conversation down there. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you want to see more Ninjago content, then please consider subscribing, and I'll see you all later. Peace.